We're back talking about Mortal Kombat. Run into the streets and scream its name at the top of your lungs, the iconic franchise and my personal favorite fighting game of all time. But outside of the games themselves, there have been various attempts to bring the world and its characters into other mediums. In a previous video, I discussed all of the live-action attempts, beginning with the 1995 movie, its sequel, Annihilation, the less said about that the better, its prequel TV series Conquest, the online shorts Mortal Kombat Legacy, and the 2021 reboot movie that gave us an R rating and fatalities, but also gave us, Cole. Anyway, go check that video out if you haven't. I will link it down below, but you can consider this video to basically be a companion piece to the first one, where this time I'm going to step into the world of animation and give a brief overview of the good, the bad, and the this. Welcome to the journey of animated Mortal Kombat, and with that, we gotta start with The Journey Begins. For context, by 1995, Mortal Kombat was an all-time monster of popularity in the video game space. We were already on Mortal Kombat 3, and pretty much coinciding with its release was the 1995 live-action movie directed by Paul W.S. Anderson. It was a hit with fans at the time, had solid and entertaining action scenes, and overall, especially for the time period it came out, it was an accurate adaptation of what existed in the story and lore of the original game. Still to this day considered to be one of the definitive live-action video game adaptations. It started out on a high note and then steadily got worse, but with animation, we pretty much have the polar opposite experience. Coinciding further with the release of the movie came a short promotional gimmick in the form of a video cassette called Mortal Kombat: The Journey Begins. And make no mistake, this exists purely as a marketing attempt to boost interest in the live-action movie. Hell, half the video cassette itself, if you actually got it, was just the making of the 1995 movie. The actual Journey Begins segment is only barely a half an hour long. They even often marketed it as a prequel to the movie, as if it connects in some meaningful way, which it doesn't. And if you were to actually watch it, it's basically a retelling of the journey to the island for the tournament, and then Raiden explaining some of the backstory of the other characters, but everything happens in a completely different way than it does in the movie. Also, characters are designed completely differently, especially Shang Tsung, who looks a lot more like he does in the video game, being much older, and there's also dozens of Tarkatans all over the place, but it's just one animation repeated over and over, but the Tarkatans aren't even in the 95 movie. Basically, this is all just marketing, not a true prequel in the terms of continuity. Anything resembling a prequel just comes with Raiden explaining the backstory on some of the characters that we don't really get to see in the movie, like Shang Tsung, Goro, Scorpion, and Sub-Zero, and all of those are done with stunning, state-of-the-art CGI animation. Okay, so The Journey Begins is pretty much universally considered to be not just the worst animated Mortal Kombat, but the worst thing to come out of the brand ever.
Be wary of all that surrounds you. Danger lurks behind every corner.
This is the Star Wars Holiday Special of Mortal Kombat. The animation is so genuinely awful, and there's very little behind-the-scenes info that I could find, but it's clear they barely had a budget here to work with, and nobody really cared because this was just meant to be a direct-to-video promotion for the movie, so as long as people rented it or bought it for their kids, who cares? It'll still make some kind of profit. But what on God's green earth is this? This is the presentation. And it being the 90s was no excuse. There were plenty of decently animated shows back then, but this is so stunted and awkward, and they just repeat the same animation cycles over and over for every character. Sometimes that's fine when you don't really notice it, but when it's a fight scene and your only animation of Johnny Cage fighting is just him crab walking backwards, and you show it 3 times in a row, I just don't understand. This is one of those things where you could literally take any 10-second clip from this animation, and it would be the most awkward and hilarious thing that you've ever seen.
Just like these, gentlemen. Guess he gave you the cold shoulder.
This is no time for jokes, guys. Fairy tales? There's one right behind you.
Hey, man, you should have your thermostat adjusted, you know? Yeah, once again, I'm the best-looking guy here.
The boat ride is funny enough, but when we get to the island, I love all the generic and random martial artists in the background. I mean, I guess this one is Baraka, but like, who the fuck is this guy? I want to know what his backstory was. Why was he never in a Mortal Kombat game? And look how Shang Tsung appears.
Hey, check it out.
But this is unforgivable. Okay, so one of the big things about this animation was that they were going to do 3D animation to be part of it. We have 2D characters awkwardly walking around on completely 3D backgrounds, and it doesn't look like they're really on an island, just in some kind of green blob hellscape. And all the exposition of the backstory of the characters is done by Raiden talking, and we showcase those backstories in 3D. I really have no comment for this. I honestly don't know what to say. The Goro segment looks like two poops smashing into one another. And Scorpion Sub-Zero, which is promoted as one of the highlights, this was going to be big because we didn't get to see them fight in the 95 movie, and here we actually get to see it. And wow, do we see it. Now, for me personally, as a kid, I saw the live-action movie before I watched this, so I was excited to see it. I rented it from the video store, and even as a kid, I was massively disappointed and confused as to what I was watching. I know some people have some nostalgic love for it or enjoy it for being so bad that it's good, which it is, and I can appreciate it for how hilariously awful it is, but as a kid, I was upset because I wanted it to be badass like the movie. Instead, I got whatever this was. And for a time, this was the only animated Mortal Kombat that existed. Until late the following year of 1996, when Mortal Kombat got its first and only animated TV series called Mortal Kombat Defenders of the Realm. It aired for one season on the USA Network back-to-back with the Street Fighter animated series, and it lasted for a whopping 13 episodes. But hey, it's better than nothing.
Much has changed since the last Mortal Kombat tournament. Driven by purpose and bound by honor, these are the Defenders of the Realm.
I guess similarly interesting as The Journey Begins is that this series was specifically marketed to children. Mortal Kombat, the games, were highly controversial at the time because of the fatalities and the depictions of blood and gore, and I know it might not seem like much now, especially with how advanced the games have gotten, but back then a lot of parents didn't want their kids playing them. The 95 live-action movie was rated PG-13 to help appeal to a wider audience and the younger demographic that was getting into it at the time, and Defenders of the Realm is definitely in line with something like Thundercats or Master of the Universe. It's definitely a kid's show. Yeah, there's lots of fighting, but there's no blood, and there's a lot of wholesome messages, like where Jax loses his metal arms, but throughout the course of the episode realizes he's still special even without them. There's also this amazing moment that I will provide completely without context.
I ain't going this way.
I sat down and I watched all 13 episodes of this show, and there's nothing overly special here. It's a decent kid show, and I wish I had seen it when I was a kid. Somehow this completely escaped me. Until making this video, I had never actually watched it. I don't even remember it being brought up with friends in school as a kid, and we were all into Mortal Kombat, so I truly don't know what happened there. Maybe it's one of those things where I just honestly don't remember it. I guess there's only so much storage space in our memories. Anyway, this series has a team of Mortal Kombat characters led by Raiden, who is voiced by Clancy Brown. Yeah, Mr. Krabs himself is Raiden. And yes, I know he was also the voice for Lex Luthor for anybody that wants to comment that, but I think it's funnier to connect it to Mr. Krabs. The team here on the show consists of Liu Kang, Sonya Blade, Jax, Kitana, Stryker, Nightwolf, and Sub-Zero. And they are basically a response team that goes and faces any enemies from Outworld that cross into the Earthrealm. There's no tournaments, but every episode basically gives you a new enemy, and many of them are from the games. Scorpion shows back up for an episode. There's a pretty good episode with Smoke that plays into Sub-Zero's backstory. Shao Kahn resurrects Shang Tsung at one point. And maybe most shockingly of all, Quan Chi makes his first ever appearance in any Mortal Kombat media in this show. That's pretty wild. But here's the weird thing. Notice I didn't mention Johnny Cage in the cast. he's nowhere to be found. But there's kind of a reason for it, even though it's not explicitly said. Defenders of the Realm feels mostly canon to both the 95 movie and its sequel Annihilation. And in Annihilation, Johnny Cage dies, which explains his absence from this show. They also make several specific references to events in the movies, such as when Liu Kang fought the first Sub-Zero and how he defeated him. It's exactly the same. They also do one where Liu Kang talks about how he defeated Shang Tsung, knocking him off a high rise and into a pit of spikes. There are a couple of contradictions along the way, but mostly it seems like they are trying to fit the show into the continuity of the movies. So if you think about this as a universe, you actually have the Conquest TV show, that's a true prequel, you have the 95 movie, its sequel Annihilation, and then you have the animated series Defenders of the Realm. So there you go, a Mortal Kombat shared universe that spans a variety of different mediums, and this was way before Marvel was doing it. It's time to give Mortal Kombat the credit it deserves. All the characters in the show have the designs of the Mortal Kombat 3 versions of them, which was still the newest game at the time, so it's still part of that cross-promotion, and that's why Sub-Zero never wears the mask. But an odd thing is that they make Nightwolf mostly sit on the sidelines and be the tech whiz of the group. You know, every ensemble show needs that one character that's good with computers that sits in front of a giant monitor and just gives exposition. I get that, but why did they make Nightwolf fill that role? Isn't he supposed to be more earthly and spiritual? Overall, there's nothing too great here. The fight scenes are nothing to write home about, and it's mostly episodic with each story wrapping up before the next episode. I could see kids enjoying this, and again, I wish I saw it or remembered it as a kid, but as a man in his 30s watching this, I mean, it's harmless, it had me laughing on occasion, but it's nothing special. It's not a train wreck by any means, but it's not great either. But after this, we would not see any animated attempts at Mortal Kombat for a long time. How long? Just about 24 years. Yeah, you could have been born, grown up, gone through all of high school, gone through college, maybe even had a kid of your own, all in the time between Defenders of the Realm and the next animated Mortal Kombat property. That is longer than the wait between GTA 5 and GTA 6. Just throwing that out there. But was it worth the wait? Kinda yeah, actually.
Let Mortal Kombat begin. Get over here. Here's Johnny.
In 2020, in the midst of a world that was in chaos, there was a direct-to-digital and Blu-ray DVD release of a movie called Mortal Kombat Legends: Scorpion's Revenge, produced by Warner Brothers and serving as the beginning of a brand new series of films. This was finally the real deal. True to the source material, solid action and animation, and most importantly, R-rated. Yes, even beating out the 2021 live-action movie to the punch, this is really the first time we saw a full, true representation to the combat of the games. Characters are split in two, fatalities are shown, blood spills everywhere, Scorpion's origin is told as the title suggests, and we get a lot of the actual Mortal Kombat tournament. This honestly exceeded my expectations, and I didn't know this was a thing until after it released. But what a breath of fresh air this is for somebody that grew up as a Mortal Kombat fan. And remember, I grew up with The Journey Begins. If a movie like this had come out when I was a kid, I probably would have shit my pants. In fact, I still did shit them a little bit watching it, but I'm just happy to see a good Mortal Kombat adaptation in animated form. It opens with Scorpion's origin, with him as Hanzo Hasashi and his family being executed by the Lin Kuei, and right off the bat, wasting no time, it lets you know that this is going to be a violent and gory spectacle. With Hanzo ripping his way through various assassins and having to watch his family be murdered before his eyes before he's sent to the Netherrealm. And they also throw in the X-ray shots of the newer versions of the game incorporated called Fatal Blows, which I always thought personally was a great fun addition to the games, so it's cool to see it be included here too. And at first I actually thought this was only going to be a Scorpion movie, but it manages to merge two plot lines simultaneously and done well. Because as Hanzo becomes Scorpion and makes a deal with Quan Chi for revenge, we also have the traditional story of Liu Kang, Sonya Blade, and Johnny Cage heading to the island for the tournament and being guided by Raiden. Going in, this was an unexpected surprise because I assumed the entire movie would just be about Scorpion, so even though it already satisfied me enough with the Scorpion story, I got the bonus material that made it even better. On the tournament side, you get to see some classic things that you recognize. Jax is here and he gets his arms ripped off by Goro, who is actually voiced by the same guy that did Goro's voice in the '95 movie, Kevin Michael Richardson. And all the voice acting here across the board is done really well. Steve Blum, made famous for roles like Spike and Cowboy Bebop, and he's also done some voices for the actual games. He's here as Sub-Zero, and the whole thing culminates to an awesome battle between Scorpion and Quan Chi. If I had any gripes, any at all, it would just be small little nitpick. Like, even though the tournament happens, because of the Scorpion story and only an 80-minute runtime, we don't have as much of it as I would like. But that is absolutely rectified in the next movie. In 2021, they made a direct sequel to this movie called Battle of the Realms, and this movie is a tournament film through and through. It follows the events of the previous movie with Shang Tsung and Quan Chi's defeat, and here we feature both Shao Kahn and Shinnok, who was built up in the first movie. They're both major villains, but they have two separate roles and motives in the film. Shao Kahn invades Earthrealm with his armies until he's convinced into one final Mortal Kombat tournament, to once and for all decide the fate of Earthrealm. Raiden decides to join the tournament, sacrificing his godlike powers, becoming mortal, which he also did in Annihilation, but at least here he doesn't have that stupid haircut. So a new tournament begins, and we have characters added like Stryker and my boy Kung Lao, who of course has to die in a horrible fatality because as a Kung Lao fan, I just can't have nice things, and he has to die all the time. God damn it. But at least he was cool for a moment or two. On the Outworld side, there's more new additions like Devora, which I think this is her first animated appearance ever, and characters like Jade and Kentaro. Liu Kang is basically the main character of this movie, with way more focus on him this time around, although it still does utilize and follow up on the Scorpion story from the first. He tries to elude Shinnok and is pursued by the Lin Kuei members, and eventually forms a temporary alliance with the second Sub-Zero, brother of the first one, and with this segment we get to see other characters like Sector, Cyrax, and Smoke, all leading to a bunch of great fight sequences. The ending, though, gets a little weird for its own good, with Shinnok merging with an ancient entity called the One Being, and Liu Kang transforms into a giant dragon, and it gets kind of weird. But overall, I really enjoyed the experience of this one. If you want combat in your Mortal Kombat, then this one is filled with it the entire runtime. I noticed a lot of mixed or negative reception on this one, but I don't know. Don't hate me for saying this, but I kind of like it a little bit more than the first. Mostly because of how much of the tournament we get as opposed to the first one. This is how I like my Mortal Kombat, a mystical martial arts tournament featuring characters with special abilities and monsters from another world. That's what I want to see, and that's what it gives me. And although Scorpion doesn't get to be as cool as he was in the first one, he's still really fucking cool. The only thing I could have done without is like the last 5 minutes, but I think they're both great and absolutely worth checking out for any and all Mortal Kombat fans. Also, I gotta mention the WB logo at the beginning of the movie is a nod to the Ultra Instinct Shaggy memes, literally having Shaggy from Scooby-Doo with glowing green aura grab Scorpion like he's nothing. It's clearly hinting at a future big bad of the franchise. At this point, the Legends series seemed to be a yearly event because the next year, in 2022, we got a third installment, Mortal Kombat Legends Snowblind. But this one is not as directly connected as the last one, and instead takes place far into the future and focuses mostly on the character of Kenshi serving as his origin story. Here we have sort of a Mad Max style wasteland world that Earthrealm has become, and we focus on a group of enemies called the Black Dragons that are led by a cyberly enhanced version of Kano, and other game characters on his team such as Cabal and Aaron Black. Most people simply bow at his feet and give him whatever he wants, but Kenshi, desperate to prove himself, fights against them. He's the typical gifted yet misguided youth that eventually suffers for his arrogance, is betrayed by an elderly Shang Tsung, and then loses his eyes, having to train and become a blind warrior. With the aid of a mystical sword and of course having a grizzled old mentor, who just so happens to also be Sub-Zero, he trains for the rematch. And sure, it's cliche, but when it's done well, it's done well. Kenshi has to build himself back up, heal from his pain, train with Sub-Zero, learn to hone his abilities, and ultimately face down Kano and his gang. But the cool variation here is that at the end, Sub-Zero is actually the one to do the final battle with Kano. Basically, it's the two old remnants of the past facing each other down in one final encounter. Fights and choreography might not be as good as in the first two movies, but it mostly works really well here, especially when Kenshi finally masters his sword. I wonder if the rushed and over-the-top battle at the end of Battle of the Realms is what caused this one to be basically a standalone movie that's far removed from the other two. Whatever the case, I still do like this one, just not as much as the first two. But obviously, if you're a fan of Kenshi, a great character to play as in the games, but never really gets the same amount of spotlight as some of the bigger, more iconic characters that have been around a lot longer, then this one is definitely a must-see. No pun intended. And continuing the yearly releases, in 2023, we got Mortal Kombat Legends Cage Match. And although it has the same voice actor for Johnny Cage as the others, this one actually feels the farthest removed from the other three movies, mostly because of the chosen style and aesthetic. This movie decides to set itself in Hollywood during the 1980s, and unlike the other three, the animation style here is changed to represent the vibrant neon lights, synthesizer music, and movie montage style of the time. The whole thing looks like it's an animated version of GTA Vice City, and the soundtrack maintains that aesthetic as well, so it's going to be hit or miss with some people. It also doesn't feel in continuity with the others because Johnny Cage encounters fantastical elements which he seems to be oblivious to in Scorpion's Revenge, and he also has a one-on-one encounter and fight with Shinnok, which is something that he never mentions in Battle of the Realms that you think would be brought up.
Even demons have balls.
Fuck him up, Johnny!
So yeah, I assume that this movie is completely standalone in its own universe and not connected to the other three. Here we have Johnny doing his daily activities like filming a ninja mime movie and telling the story of his childhood and how bullying caused him to get into martial arts, and it sheds some light on his sarcastic and jokey personality, constantly convincing himself of his own self-worth. While looking for one of his missing co-stars, he stumbles upon a plotline of the Netherrealm characters attempting to bring Shinnok into the Earthrealm. He also battles his manager, who is really a demon, but more importantly than that, he's voiced by Gilbert Gottfried in his final credited role before passing away. Rest in peace.
You're playing a turtle in a thong.
This movie attempts to really play on Johnny Cage's character and make itself a fun, lighthearted adventure, but still being consistent with the blood and gore the Legend series has now been known for. It's basically the polar opposite of Snowblind. In that movie, everything is a desolate wasteland, it takes itself very seriously, and it's telling a classic hero's journey tale. Whereas here we have vibrant colors, we're in a big city, we have a total goofball, sarcastic asshole in the lead, and tons of winks at the camera and many deliberate comedic moments. But I do think that that's good that we're getting a variety. It seems like the original intention with the first two movies was to begin an ongoing storyline, maybe make it similar to the DC animated movies that were coming out consistently for a while. But then they switched it up and decided to do standalone stories just focusing on the diverse cast of Mortal Kombat characters that are available. Changing the movie's style and format to suit its main characters is kind of a cool idea, and for Johnny Cage, the over-the-top 80s vibe works really well. But I also do have to say that this is my least favorite of the Legend series. It's not bad, it's fun and entertaining with lots of silly, self-aware humor, but overall it's just not as appealing to me as the others. Now, so far, this was the last one that was released, and they were consistent from 2020 to 2023, having at least one a year. 2024 was the first time they skipped, and even though there have been rumors of the next Legends film to focus on the story of Kitana, little information has come out about it, and there's never been an official statement saying that that's what they're going to work on, so it seems to be just fan speculation. I hope poor reception of Cage Match or something didn't dissuade the studio from making these, because I feel like they were onto something good here. Although as a track record with Warner Brothers, they tend to not be shy about dismissing or deleting films from existence. Cross-marketing is a pretty common thing in the franchise history, so if they had one to release around the time of Mortal Kombat 2, the live-action movie, that would be a perfect opportunity. But since it's already May of 2025 as the recording of this, and that movie comes out in November, there's been no info of any new animated projects, so it's probably not happening. What's hard for Mortal Kombat fans is that after making videos reflecting on all of the live action and animated material, I realize we don't have a lot of great adaptations, and even with the newer games, even though I liked Mortal Kombat 1 a lot, there's a lot of mixed reception and people don't tend to like them as much as they did before. Back in the 90s, Mortal Kombat was a huge staple of gaming and one of the coolest things that us kids has ever seen. But so many decades later now, it doesn't seem like it has the same amount of impact or feeling that it once did. I think part of that too is also having access to so many different games and varieties of adaptations that have done it better. Street Fighter had the luxury of getting a few anime adaptations, of which are absolutely stunning. I would love to see Mortal Kombat get an anime treatment someday, but who knows what kind of rights issues would need to be made for that to happen. Legends was a great series and a great idea, but it could be that production costs just weren't getting enough on return. Whatever the case, let's go ahead and rank the animated material. So no shock to anybody, but The Journey Begins is last. This is a great one if you want to laugh, but just awful all the way around. After that, I'd put Defenders of the Realm. It's an alright kid show, but it doesn't hold up too well and is very middle of the road. And after that, I'd put Cage Match. I had fun with it. I think it's good. It's just my least favorite of the Legends movies. Above that, I'd put Snowblind. Really cool. Great to see Kenshi get the spotlight. And I love the grizzled old man Sub-Zero. Then maybe this might be controversial. Now, I love both these two movies, but I might put Scorpion's Revenge at my number 2. I really love it, and it finally showed us what a great animated Mortal Kombat could be like, and it set the standard for everything moving forward. But at number 1, I think I might have to put Battle of the Realms, because if you take out the last 10 minutes, it's a great tournament movie filled with a variety of fights and gives me the most Mortal Kombat for my money. But anyways, there you have it, guys. A brief rundown of all the animated material to come out of Mortal Kombat, and like I said already, I made a video on the live action stuff about 2 weeks ago, but I'll link that down in the description if you guys haven't checked that out yet. You can consider that as a part 1, and this video is a part 2. So let me know what you guys think of the animated stuff down below. Were you there when The Journey Begins came out? Did you get a chance to watch Defenders of the Realm when it was on TV? And once they started releasing the Legends series, what did you guys think about it? Thanks as always for watching, guys. I really do appreciate it. Please give the video a thumbs up and a comment to help it out in the algorithm. And I would definitely appreciate it if you considered the Patreon or becoming a channel member. Could use the help right now. But other than that, guys, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you all next time.
That should not have happened.
Tell me about it.